So this is just We the People News, y'all. Okay, this video is without prejudice and or without recourse, okay? Look, I never look straight forward. I always look around me to be able to protect myself by any means necessary. Now, in some of these videos, I kind of define, y'all's racist things, and I say I don't believe in race and all that kind of stuff. And like, for instance, the devil's a different race than I am. God's a different race than I am. And I never met an alien, so I can't be racist because I never met an alien. All right? And I think, for my thoughts, okay, is God created man, okay, that we are one race, okay? And I think, for my behalf, before I even found this video, that if we're all men or mankind, then how do we get this race thing, right? All it is we're all just a shade of color, but there is no black and white in betweens. It's just shades. And I found this video and I thought it equally matched what I initially thought. Okay? Now, this being said, does it mean it's true and correct? That's up to y'all. Okay? It just fits in the line of what I thought. Okay? And so, therefore, I cannot be racist if I've never met another race. Just saying, y'all. That's just plain out simple. However, the trickery of words, right? We talked about this in court, but when you go into trickery, words can always be used. And no matter what concept of things that we talk about, there's always some type of form of trickery words. But let's just kind of dig in this. Now, it's kind of a religious deal I found, okay? So let's just step back and take away from the religious part and just do the thinking process without the religious part of it, okay? Whether I believe it or not, that's a different story. I just want to kind of broaden the mind, okay? So let's just do this.
Are actually part of the horse kind. You can get a Zorse or a Zonkey where these things are actually interbreeding with each other. So yes, we have variations within those particular kinds. Now what about people? If we're going to step back and look at people from a biblical viewpoint, we're all related. Yes, we're going to have the variation, but people are a little bit different. You know, when it came to those dogs, nature was affecting them. That is called natural selection. Darwin did not come up with natural selection. Actually, a Christian man by the name of Ed Blythe came up with that about 25 years before Darwin, trying to explain variations within these kinds. Darwin took it and said maybe that leads to evolution. But people are different. When we go to a cold place, we don't die off, do we? No, we build a house, put clothes on, build a fire. We defy it, essentially. We go to a hot place, we battle against that sort of thing as well. So we're not acted on by the elements like the way a lot of these animals are. So how do we get the variation? You know, that red and yellow, black and white, and so forth. Actually, I don't like to say red and yellow, black and white. I actually like to say brown. You know why? In our genetics tell us to produce a brownish pigment called melanin that appears in your skin. There's actually two forms of it. Now, the National Geographic decided to line up some girls here in a classroom. Look at this, really light to really dark. Boom. And you can see it's basically one color, isn't it? It's just what shade of that color is it. You got more melanin in your skin, you have less melanin in your skin. I'm probably somewhere in here. That's probably about where I'm at, just to give you an idea. So we're all kind of brownish. Some are more brown, some are less brown. I've had people say, but Bodie, you're white. No, guys, this is white. I don't look like this. If I looked like this, call a Hearst. Ambulance, it's too late for that. Yeah, we're all kind of brownish. Now, let's look at the genetics of mankind to talk about this brownish pigment, because we have a whole host of variations all the way in there. Now I'm going to step it up a little bit with my genetics. Don't let it scare you. But I'm going to have a capital A and capital B stand for genes that say produce lots of melanin. Small a and small b mean to produce smaller amounts of melanin. So basically, if you get all capital letters, you're going to be darker. If you get all small letters, you're going to be lighter. If you're somewhere in between, you're going to be somewhere in between. So let's put this into our famous Punnett square here. You can have really dark to really light in one generation if people started out in the middle. It's real easy, actually. I've had people say, but we don't really observe that. Yes, we do. Look at these two little beautiful twins. Both of the parents have a light and dark parent, and they came out kind of middle brown. And they have these beautiful twins, Kian and Remy here. This is pictures when they're a little bit older. Dark hair, dark skin, dark eyes, blonde hair, blue-eyed, fair skin. One generation of twins. We see a lot of examples of twins. I like to use the examples of twins. Here's Cheryl and Karen. Another set. This is over in the UK. Clayton and Caden. Ryan and Leo. Oh, here's a good one. Twin Credibles. 2 sets of two-tone twins. How cool is that? That is incredible when you think about this. Yes, we can get variation in skin tone in one generation. It's fairly easy. But it's the same sort of thing with regards to eye color. More melanin, less melanin. And you can get variations all in between. Genetics, it also explains eye shape variation. Do you have more of the almond-shaped eye or do you have more of the rounded eye? The point is, when it comes down to it, the biological fact is that all humans belong to one race, the human race. And the event that triggered us to be split apart was not nature, it wasn't the environment, no, it was the events that occurred at the Tower of Babel. As different family groups went to different parts of the world, that split apart the gene pool. People went to the Orient, took genes for the almond-shaped eye. People went to Africa, took genes for darker skin. People went to Europe, took genes for lighter skin, but we're all related. Which means we're all sinners and we're all in need of Jesus Christ, no matter what we look like. So why is racism so prevalent in our culture? Did you ever stop to think about why it is? I would suggest one of the main reasons is the evolution of man. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying racism was caused by the idea of evolution. Racism was around before that. Racism ultimately goes back to sin. That's what it goes back to. But I would suggest as a result of an evolutionary worldview, a lot more people started to buy into a racist philosophy. And there's reasons for it. Let me explain that. If you look at the secular timeline, they say there was nothing. No time, no space, nothing at all. Then something pops into existence from nothing and rapidly explodes or expands. They call that the Big Bang. They claim this happened anywhere from about 13 to 15 billion years ago. The numbers tend to vary. And then you get the sun, moon, and the stars and all that sort of stuff. Finally get the first seas. They said the earth was molten like lava and had to cool off. They say finally chemicals come together and form the first life, and it evolves further and further and further to where you get some sort of monkey-like creature that evolves into some sort of ape-like creature, and the ape-like creature then splits into the modern apes and the human line. And if you look at that human line, here's what they say. You get a multitude of races that come out of that. Early evolutionists used to sometimes have a whole host of variations of races, some of them as high as 30. But usually they settled on about 4 or 5, and these are the racist names that they gave to them. You might recognize some of these names. And so I don't like these names, but this is what the early evolutionists used. Negroid, Australoid, Mongoloid, and the Caucasoid.
You prayed and believed your whole life.
Some of these terminologies are still used even today. How many people out here with lighter skin, of European descent, you fill out a government form that says, what race are you? And you put Caucasian. That's the evolutionary race right there. You can see how that's infiltrated even our governmental system, this particular viewpoint. Now, I want you to understand the term race has actually changed over the years. You go back 200 years ago, somebody said, hey, what race are you? I'm the Irish race, or the German race, or the English race, or the West African race, or the Chinese race. People don't use it that way anymore, do they? No. They think in terms of the evolutionary race. You see the term race has actually been redefined and means something different now. Now, like I said, I don't like to use this terminology, but in the evolutionary worldview, they actually would start to lump these. They would put the Australoid at the bottom, then the Negroid, then the Mongoloid, and then they put the Caucasoid on top. For example, Ernst Haeckel, one of the early evolutionists, he's the one who popularized an evolutionary worldview to the German people. He was kind of a contemporary here, a little bit of Charles Darwin, and actually was more popular probably a little bit after his time. But he popularized it. That actually led to things like Nazism. But one of the things he says here, at the lowest stage of human mental development are the Australians. Some tribes are the Polynesians and the Bushmen, the Hottentots, and some of the Negro tribes. Like I said, this is his terminology. What they're doing is they're saying, well, these people who have darker skin, they're down here closer to the apes. That's really what they said. Where did he get this idea from? He got it from Darwin himself. In Darwin's second book, The Descent of Man, this was published in 1871, it says, at some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. At the same time, the anthropomorphic apes will no doubt be exterminated. The break between man and his nearest allies will then be wider, for it will intervene between man and a more civilized state, as we may hope, even than the Caucasian and some ape as well as a baboon, instead of now between the Negro or Australian Aborigine and the gorilla. You know what he's saying here? The Caucasians up here, the baboons are here, there's everything in between. We need to wipe all that stuff out, and then maybe the Caucasian can evolve even further. That's what he's saying. That's what the Nazis and Hitler tried to do. It's sad to see that sort of thing. Makes sense why all of the Australians were targets. The graves were desecrated, they were hunted, bodies put on display. It's terrible to see this kind of stuff. Now, like I said, evolution is not the cause of racism, but it really increased. Stephen Jay Gould, he was a professor at Harvard University, died a few years back now. He made the statement, he said, biological arguments for racism may have been common before 1850, but they increased by orders of magnitude following the acceptance of evolutionary theory. So even the evolutionists agreed that an evolutionary worldview added fuel to that fire. Oh, but Bodie, aren't there all these missing links that prove evolution? Nope, there isn't. You see, you need to understand something about missing links. There are three ways people try to make a missing link. The first is you take bones from a human and you take bones of an ape, you put them together and try to make a missing link. Now, is that a real creature? No, it's not, because you took bones of a human, bones of an ape. The second way to make a missing link is you take an ape, try to make it look like a human. The third way is you take a human, you try to make it look like an ape. Really good examples of this are Homo habilis.
Alrighty. Just thinking outside the box, y'all. Again, I just found this. This may be true, may be false. I don't know. But it kind of in line with my one particular deal. Mankind is still mankind. And we're different shades. Okay? But we are not different colors. Okay? But that's just the way I looked at it. I don't know. You guys decide. The only thing I know beyond a shadow of doubt is I can't be racist if I never, ever seen a different race. Peace for We the People News. Bye, y'all.